Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters, and Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
And welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by Lil Mikey Myers himself, Eric Kniss. Thank you.
Yes. Which little Mikey Myers? They didn't even show little Mikey Myers in this one.
They showed it from his view, his perspective.
Am I like fat kid little Mikey Myers or like original, like cute little Mikey Myers?
Lil Mikey Myers. Jesus Christ.
Ugh.
Oh boy. And we are continuing Horrortober, not with a look at a found footage horror film, or as we established on the last Kulturecast, reality horror. We are taking a look at the 11th film in the Halloween franchise. That's right, 11. Halloween 2018.
Ooh, I like how it rhymes.
Testing 1, 2, 3. We're on.
We're here to investigate a patient that killed 3 innocent teenagers on a Halloween in 1978. He was shot by his own psychiatrist and taken into custody that night, and has spent the last 40 years in captivity. Hello, Michael. I have something you might like to see.
Everyone in my family turns into a nutcase this time of year. Yeah, I mean, your grandmother is Laurie Strode. She was almost murdered.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother. That's something that people made up.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
Dad, look out!
The bus crashed.
Mom, what bus crashed?
Michael escaped.
Excuse me, somebody's in here.
Hello?
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him.
Get out! Go home! Get inside!
You don't believe in the boogeyman?
He's here!
Michael! You should.
Can you close the closet door?
film is directed by David Gordon Green, written by Jeff Fradley, Danny McBride, yes, that Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, and Andy Matichak. And yes, Jamie Lee Curtis is returning as the character she played oh so long ago in the original Halloween. So the film centers around Jamie Lee Curtis as a returning Laurie Strode as she fights Michael Myers one last time on Halloween.
For a second, I thought you were going to say it one last, as she cuckolds Michael Myers. I was like, oh shit, this is a very different Halloween.
What did you think of Halloween 2018?
Man.
Also, I think we should say just from the outset, we will be talking spoilers.
Yeah, this is not going to be a spoiler-free discussion. Man, I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. I was real sad about it. I was real disappointed. It was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of having flashbacks to like walking out of The Last Jedi, where when I walked out of it, I just turned to my friend and I went, was that bad? Because I walked out of this movie and I went, was that bad? Because it wasn't good. It didn't feel right. And it just wasn't. I didn't like it. Yeah, disappointed. I know how my dad feels now. I'm not mad at it. I'm just disappointed.
You're saying you know how your dad feels with you.
Yes, specifically.
With you and you alone.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes, with me. My brother is fine. He's doing well for himself.
That's fine. I know the feeling. This movie feels like two movies in one, and that's unfortunate because it almost, was two movies. David Gordon Green has said that this was meant to be two sequels shot back to back. And it feels like it because there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's not great. And it feels like it's from two disparate films. And that's unfortunate because there was a lot of stuff in this movie that works for me. But there's also a lot of stuff in this movie that doesn't work. And it creates a balance that I'm not really happy with because I wanted it to be more of the stuff that worked more than the stuff that didn't work. And yeah. There's a lot that works, and it's really nice to see Jamie Lee Curtis come back and her character be given an actual, hopefully, definitive ending to the character that she made so famous, that made her so famous.
Yeah, I mean, and she's amazing in the movie.
She's great in the movie. And it's unfortunate because, God, so much of this movie is so fucking bad. So stupid.
There's a lot.
So just disappointing and so muddled. And there's a lot of characters that serve no purpose. There's a lot of characters that have nothing happen to them, period. And they disappear from the film. And what it ends up coming down to is you've got Michael Myers, who's super great in this movie, and you've got Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who's super great in this movie. And then everyone else is kind of just set dressing. And that's a disappointment because you've got actresses like Judy Greer, you've got an actor like Will Patton, and, even Toby Huss, who's, he's a fantastic character actor who's been doing great work for as long as I can remember. Yeah. And then you come to this movie and it's like, do you not know that these people are actually really good at what they do and that they can be given something really interesting to do? No, you just have them, killed off screen or nothing done with them at all. And it's such a disappointment. Such a disappointment.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. There was a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of things that happen in this movie.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output, and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
that I wonder why it happened like that. Like how after, however many rewrites of the script, like, did you land on like this? And then I'm sure that they had to cut a bunch of stuff. Like there's parts in this movie where it feels like they probably shot more and there's more scenes with certain characters and they were just cut for time or cut because they were just like, we don't want a 2-hour, Halloween movie. We want to keep it lean and mean and keep it in the 90-minute realm. Or maybe it made even less sense if there was more stuff going on. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just wrong and, they used everything that they shot and they just, I don't know. They just didn't give enough time to certain subplots that just don't go anywhere and characters that mean nothing. And yeah, I mean, like you said, the two things that they got right is Laurie's character is amazing. So Jamie Lee Curtis is, fantastic in this movie. And I love, sort of the badass, over prepared sort of like been waiting for this moment for the last 40 years direction that they went with this. I think that's really awesome, that it's not like she was definitely fucked up by what happened to her, but like instead of being fucked up and like being sort of destroyed by what happened to her, like she really turned it around and made it like her cornerstone of like what makes her a strong person, like to a fault. And they talk about that and they touch upon that a lot in this movie, but I still like never felt it, like I never they talk a lot about like Judy Greer's character, who's Laurie's daughter in the film, and how like she was taken away from Laurie like at a very young age because of the way that she was being raised and all of this stuff, and how Laurie's had 2 failed marriages and all of this other stuff. And you can tell me that in exposition all you want, but if I don't feel like that actually happened in this universe, then like it doesn't matter to me. Like, the character of Laurie's great, but like the character of Laurie's daughter, who should have been much, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like
it's an unnecessary character. Honest to God, I think the film should have just. I think the film should have just been Laurie versus Michael with all the other stuff.
But that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, that's what it ultimately really was. Like, there's a couple of parts where they try to bring in this granddaughter character who honestly is like means nothing to the story, like at all.
So much so that her like plot line is not given any sort of like closure. Yeah. None.
There's like a whole section of the movie where they're like at this high school Halloween dance, like with her boyfriend who we meet like early on in the movie, who like, is one of those guys who's like, he seems cool, but eventually he's going to be a piece of shit and then something bad's going to happen. But like that whole thing happens in the movie. And then like 5 minutes later, we're already like past that and beyond it. And like nothing happens. Like she like barely gets attacked by Michael. Like honestly, he seems like very disinterested with her and like doesn't even really chase after her at all.
They ripped off that kind of setup from Scream 2. I was just thinking about it in my head. Like they totally ripped that off.
Yeah,
with him in the back of that car, I was just like, this is just Scream 2, but Scream 2 did it better. And everybody thinks that Scream 2 is awful, which that's not the case. Scream 2 is amazing. But yeah, her character, and like to the point where, like you said, Michael doesn't even give a shit.
Yeah, he doesn't. He seems disinterested with her, which I kind of noticed, and I went like, huh. He's just murdering everybody else, but he like hasn't even gone after this girl. So like he either just doesn't care about her or he's like using her to get to Laurie, I guess. But that's like such a bullshit thing. Like I don't care about that. Just like
it's weak.
Just get to Laurie, or better yet, have Laurie take the fight to him. Like that would be even more badass if you have Laurie out there in the streets hunting down Michael and she finds him and she's like, fuck this, like I'm not sitting at home waiting for him to come to me. I'm fucking going to him and I'm gonna end this. Like that would be even more badass, you know?
Her hunting him as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you have the complete role reversal, which they sort of have in parts in this movie. There's a lot of scenes that are like callbacks, especially to the first Halloween, but instead of Michael in his place is Laurie. Like there's the scene with the granddaughter looking out the window from the classroom, and she looks across the street, and instead of Michael standing there staring at her, it's Laurie. There's the scene where you're looking down in the front yard off the balcony or whatever, and in the first movie it's Michael. And then when you look back, he's gone. In this movie, it's Laurie who falls off the balcony and Michael's looking down. And when he looks back, she's gone. So like there's a lot of fan service in this movie, and there's fan service to like almost every Halloween. I think like even the Rob Zombie Halloweens get some references in this.
Well, just look at the character design of Michael's mask.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I don't like the fan service doesn't bother me if it's done properly.
It's not particularly overt.
Yeah, but I think the problem is like sometimes they were working in fan service and stuff, and this movie already feels like a hodgepodge, to me at least, of like just ideas and just things happening, like just like all the weird side storylines that are sort of happening, like with the Strode family, and then like with the the sheriff and the deputy guy, and then the new Loomis character, which they literally say on the nose in the fucking movie, "Oh, you're the new Loomis." And I groaned audibly in the theater and was about to just be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we can't just like come up with an original idea for a new Halloween movie after 40 years. Like, there has to be a doctor character that's involved. Like, that's stupid. I don't know. I mean, I know like I'm just spewing my displeasure with this movie just seemingly nonstop, and it's just because like I don't know, man. I just like I wanted so much out of this movie, and the people involved in this movie should have done a better job. Like, they should have gotten it right. Like, this is one of those times where it's like, this is the team that like you're like, okay, yeah, this should be totally fucking cool, but it's not. And I mean, this is David Gordon Green's first horror movie, and it honestly feels like it, because there's a lot of just extra bullshit like that doesn't need to be in this movie, and and some of the...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Horror sequences and like parts with Michael in them are just like straight up just like generic ripoffs of like other Halloween movies or like other horror movies in general. It's just like generic horror trope, the movie, starring characters that you already know and love, in a sort of role reversed way in a couple parts. Like I think, and I don't think, I know it could have been done better. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to fucking just, when they hear you don't like this movie, they're just going to be like, oh, fuck you. You don't fucking understand Halloween, or like, you're not a true fucking Halloween fan or whatever. And whatever, dude, those people need to fucking grow the fuck up. There's a lot of cool things in this movie, and it's got a lot of good ideas, but I think overall, like, the execution is just bad. It's just poorly executed. It's not even that it's a bad Halloween movie. I think it's just a bad movie.
Well, and that's the thing, is you mentioned that the people who are involved should have been able to make a quality film. I kind of actually think I have to disagree. I'm not sure I want David Gordon Green directing this movie. And I'm not sure I want Danny McBride writing this movie either. Like, look, let's be honest here. They're comedic actors and a director, and they have they bring a comedic background to things, right? I mean, that's, there's no two ways around it.
Sure.
Pineapple Express, Your Highness, Eastbound and Down. And there's comedy in this film, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It falls flatter than the comedy in Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Yeah, it's bad.
Banh Mi, PB&J Banh Mi, dude, that's just not funny. It's not funny. It's not, I don't even know what they were going for, but whatever they were going for, they missed the mark. And they missed the mark by like a mile.
Yeah.
A mile and then some. And that's, again, I think that's, again, kind of going back to who made this and who was making this movie for what intention. I know John Carpenter did not like Rob Zombie's Halloween. He's gone on record saying that multiple times, how he didn't like demystifying Michael. He didn't like kind of making Michael more grounded in reality, which Rob Zombie totally did, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean,
David Gordon Green is not the person I want making this movie. Neither is Danny McBride. Jason Blum, on the other hand, I want him involved. Period. I mean, he has made some of the biggest horror movies he has produced some of the biggest horror movies of the last decade.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this movie's made by people who don't grasp what makes those original movies, first two. Past that, 3 is its own beast. I think 3 is probably one of the greatest horror movies ever made, but it has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
And it's also one of the most like insane batshit bonkers movies like that has ever come out. Like, come the fuck on.
But I don't think that David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, and Jeff Fradley really grasp what makes the original so great. And that's disappointing because they kept talking about how they were going to do, we're going to do all this great stuff and da-da-da-da-da. And it just doesn't come through. It doesn't come through at all. And that's disappointing because I understand what they were going for, but I don't think that they were remotely successful.
I agree. Yeah. You can see the good ideas. You can see like the setup for things. All 3 of them were
right. All 3 of them were more into writing comedy. I mean, Jeff Fradley has the only other thing he's worked on is Vice Principals. And you know what? I really like that show. That show is a good show. That's a dark show. But at the same time, that's not the person I want writing my Halloween movie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think that's a person anyone should want writing their Halloween movie.
But at the same time, they had the whole thing where if all of a sudden, Jordan Peele can come out and he can write this amazing script for Get Out and like put this movie out that like nobody expected from Jordan Peele of all people. Like, what? All this, you're from Key and Peele, and like, wasn't he on like Mad TV and stuff before then? And he's just like been a comedian for like the last like 15 years, and then like all of a sudden he writes this genre movie.
Isn't that lightning in a bottle?
It's totally lightning in a bottle.
Well, and this goes to show that.
Right. And then they're like, oh, well, like maybe it's because of his like comedic sensibilities that he can like go the other way with it and like do this other stuff. And I'm like, no. Like he has just proven that like he has a firm grasp on genre and like can write the shit out of a script. That doesn't mean that other comedians can write horror movies.
And can we also talk about the fact that Get Out is not a horror movie anyways, not in the same vein that this movie is. I'm not sure Jordan Peele would be successful at writing the next Halloween movie.
I mean, a Halloween movie specifically is a very special type of horror movie.
Correct.
It's the prototypical slasher movie. It's the fucking first one, like it's the movie. The original Halloween is the movie that spawned an entire subgenre of horror movies that dominated the entire 80s, like horror film culture. Like almost every successful horror movie from the 80s and franchises, like multiple franchises spawned from this one movie coming out in 1978 and going like, oh, you can have somebody in a mask just running around with a goddamn knife and murdering people? Like, holy shit.
And yeah,
all right,
Texas
here we
Chainsaw
go.
Massacre came out in 1974.
Yeah, but the second one didn't even come out for like
But
way
this is the
later.
slasher film.
This is the slasher. Yeah. Yeah. I would say that, I don't know. Texas Chainsaw is much more of like the like horror hillbilly, like backwoods horror, like setting shit. Like, that's a whole different subgenre of movies that, I mean, like slasher-esque for sure. And slasher sensibilities, of course, but like I think like the modern, the birth of the modern slasher movie is Halloween, 100%.
And the birth of the modern Scream Queen is Halloween.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's why Jamie Lee Curtis is known as the Scream Queen.
Yeah, she is the Scream Queen. And, deservedly so. I mean, like her portrayal in that movie, and then even her portrayal in this movie is fucking awesome. And it sucks that I don't like this movie because I really like her in this movie. And I really like the way that Michael moves and kills people. I think he's more brutal in this movie than he is in any other Halloween except for the Rob Zombie ones. And those are in their own universe of Rob Zombie insanity.
Those are Rob Zombie movies, so you know that there's going to be some really brutal shit.
Right.
I mean, Michael Myers at one point in this film skins someone's head.
Yeah.
Or like carves their head, hollows their head out. Like that's straight out of the Rob Zombie Halloween films.
Yeah, he turns somebody's head into a fucking jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Like,
you're not going to see Carpenter doing that in the original.
Yeah. There's a lot of great kills, the portrayal of Michael and the way that he looks and moves and everything I think is spot on. And I think, there's a lot of discrepancies, it's just like, the people who play Jason, and things like that. Like when it's not just one person, like when you have Freddy, who's just Robert Englund, except for that one movie that we won't talk about.
And by the way, the reason that movie doesn't work is because Freddy is not the kind of character who can be replaced because he is tied to the actor. Unlike, I'm a huge Kane Hodder fan, so I was about to say Jason, but Leatherface, you could get away with it. Michael Myers, you can get away with it. That's because Robert Englund talks.
Right, but I think there's a lot of like, if you delve really deep into Halloweendom or whatever, like the mask is different in every movie and the mask looks fucking downright stupid in a bunch of them. And then like the way that Michael moves is different in every movie and things like that. And I think like this movie really takes it back to basics where Michael is just this unemotional, like unstoppable force that just kills and does nothing else. And that's all he does in the fucking movie. And the thing that really, one of the parts of this movie that really bothered me was everybody in this movie, for some fucking insane reason, is obsessed with getting Michael to talk.
What was that all about?
Doesn't. Everybody is like, why won't you talk? Say something. Say something. They literally, in multiple times in the movie, people are yelling, say something at Michael, and then he just ends up murdering them sooner or later or whatever. And it's just like,
why do you care what he says?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, he hasn't spoken for 40 years. Like they literally say that. They lay it out in the movie. Since that night, 40 years ago, Michael has been locked up in this mental institution, and they've been studying him and trying to understand what happened, and he has not spoken a word the entire time. And so, like, for some reason, that is the thing that, like, everybody's obsessed with. They want him to talk. Like, and God damn it. Like, I think the only thing that would have maybe made this movie even stupider is if he would have actually talked. I do.
It's a character motivation from some of the characters, namely the podcasters and the Dr. Loomis character, that it's just like, who cares? Why do you care?
Yeah.
Like, what is there to be gained by being like, talk, say something? It's like, why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a stupid thing to get caught up on. And it's like weirdly
Yeah, but the problem is if it were just like a minor thing, but like one character's motivation is just to get Michael to talk.
Yeah, yeah. And that's,
like you have the characters of the podcasters who are completely wasted. You have the character of the doctor who's completely wasted. You have the character of the sheriff deputy played by Will Patton who's completely wasted. And it's like, oh, well, he was the first one who responded the night back 40 years ago. ago, it's like, okay.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? It obviously...
And his character is undercut by the other characters so heavily that little plot point ends up not even mattering.
Yeah, so there's a lot of... I don't know. There's a lot of things that could have been cool, and there's a lot of ideas. Like, I can see all the threads, and I can sort of see the thought process, but just like, I don't know, the things that they choose to focus on, like, they shouldn't have focused on. I think the granddaughter character is literally a useless character, and she shouldn't have been in the movie. Like, I think you could have had a better time if you would have focused on Judy Greer's character and have her be more fucked up. Like, she seems very normal this whole movie. She talks about how fucked up her childhood was, and she constantly is telling her daughter, who's the
show us,
granddaughter,
don't tell us.
Right. She's constantly telling her, like, oh, you don't know what it was like. Like, I don't want to talk to your grandmother. Like, the way that I was raised was so fucked up, and like all this stuff. But like, she seems totally normal, like, for 90% of the time that she's in the movie. Like, she's just seems like a regular person. Like, maybe what you should do is you can have the juxtaposition of Laurie Strode, who's this really strong, just outspoken, hardcore, character who has just been prepping for 40 years for Michael. And she took all of that energy and she gave it and she like put it into raising her daughter in the same way. And maybe it actually really fucked her up. So maybe then you can have Judy Greer's character like be actually messed up by this, and you can show us that instead of just having her say it a bunch of time in the movie. Like, maybe she never had a daughter because she was so fucked up by what her mom did to her that she was like, I don't want to do that to somebody else, even if it's by accident or something like that. Like, then you can give me a reason to like actually care about somebody who's not just Laurie or Michael, which this movie fails completely at doing. I don't give a shit about anybody who's not Laurie or Michael. And like, you have the doctor character, like, come the fuck on. Like, we were kind of talking about this earlier. Like, why do we have a doctor character? Why do we have Loomis? Like, again, Loomis 2.0. They literally call him New Loomis in the fucking movie, and it blows my mind. Like, that nobody went like, really? Like, can we just like not have this? Like, we don't need to have this. Or what you do is, when the I don't know. They kind of try to subvert it. Like, they have, the doctor is, the one who like caused the bus crash, and he like wants to see Michael like in sort of like an untethered environment and see how he reacts and what he does. And he wants to study and find out what it's really like. And he ends up being the one who kills the cop or whatever. And like, I get it. It's supposed to be like a subversion of Loomis. Like, this is like, Bizarro Loomis. He's like the Waluigi of this, of Luigi.
The Ouijaverse?
Of the Ouijaverse, yeah. But it's, it's stupid. He doesn't need to be in the movie. And if you want to have a doctor character, why don't you make it something that's like even more crazy? Like, maybe when the bus crashes, the doctor fucking dies, and one of the other crazy inmates takes his fucking jacket with his name tag off. And then when the cops show up, they think he's the fucking doctor, because for some reason, nobody's ever met this guy. And so then you have this other crazy who's just like taking the cops on a fucking wild goose chase throughout the night. So maybe that's why the cops can't respond to Michael, because they're already dealing with this other crazy who then turns on them later in the movie or whatever and gets some kills of his own. And then you have Michael, who's basically free to do whatever he wants because the cops are off somewhere else with this other crazy person. And, then that kills two birds with one stone. Like, you can have your weird subversion of the doctor character, which I don't understand why you need it in the first place. And it explains why the cops somehow can't find this one fucking like seemingly 6'5" brick shithouse of a man in a fucking jumpsuit and a white mask, like
who is so strong that he can stomp on someone's head in one fell swoop.
They literally, that was just like he exploded the doctor's head in one stomp. That was a hell of a stomp. There are things like that in this movie where I'm just like, I don't understand why you want to do it this way. But if you have to do it...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster. You know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Like this, why don't you do it like this? Like, if you're gonna go, don't go halfway, go all the fucking way, go fucking totally wild, go fucking crazy balls deep. Like, don't make people kind of fucked up, make people all the way fucked up. Like, you know, you made Laurie all the way badass. She is all the way badass in this movie. Like, you can tell that she is fucked up by this Michael thing and it's ruined her life for the last 40 years, but she's also never going to let it happen again. And you know that. Like, I don't know how you felt about that when you watched it, but I knew in my fucking testicles that she was never going to let that shit happen. I was like, one of these motherfuckers is going to die at the end of the movie, and it's going to be Laurie or Michael. But, you know, both of them are not coming out of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the logical conclusion for this series, right?
Yeah. And I mean, we can talk about whether or not that actually happened or not a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What did you think? I mean, I'm sitting over here just like airing out all of my grievances that like I haven't had a chance to really like vent at anybody for the past couple of days. Like I mean, I told you this earlier today, but like I almost went and saw this movie again because I was like, I need to see this movie again. And I like, you know, maybe I need to look at it through like you know, a fresh pair of eyes or whatever, but it's I couldn't, like I didn't want to. Like I felt I felt cheated by this movie, unfortunately. And I'm not even like a crazy diehard like Halloween fan. Like I love Halloween. Halloween 1 is awesome. Halloween 2 is okay. And Halloween 3 I think is like amazing in this sort of insanely batshit weird way. But that's not even a Michael Myers movie. And so like Halloween 1978, I guess, is like awesome. And I really like the Rob Zombie movies, but like those are their own separate things. Like Rob Zombie movies are honestly their own subgenre of movies in general. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I was disappointed by this movie.
I think that, and this is something like you said, we talked a little bit about, you know, off the podcast, is when I watched this movie, I was disappointed, and I was disappointed because I was expecting more than just like a soft retread. And this ended up being a soft retread, and again, there doesn't seem to be any finality at all. Yeah, that irked me also, that there was like, there's not a definitive, you know, I mean, Laurie doesn't die. Well, let's do this. Let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll talk about kind of what this movie ends up doing and kind of where this movie ends up.
Have a hunger for horror? A yen for Yelp yarns? Then give your blood-curdled bones a boon and tune in to Chronicles from the Crypt. Join sordid slime slingers Casualty Chris and Father Malone as they take on HBO's groundbreaking television series Tales from the Crypt. Here's what the rotting and rancid rabble are saying about Chronicles from the Crypt. Tune in to Chronicles from the Crypt. You have nothing to lose except your life.
Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a newspaper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent News Service, sir, founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
In 1985, a curious phenomenon occurred. The Twilight Zone returned to television, featuring all new tales of mystery and imagination from the minds of Ray Bradbury, Harlan Ellison, George R.R. Martin, and Stephen King. Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast looks back at that land of shadow and substance and re-examines the groundbreaking successor to Rod Serling's legacy. Featuring new interviews with the show's creators and cast, Dreams for Sale can be found on iTunes and at twilightzone85.com. Dreams for Sale. We'll be waiting for you in the Twilight Zone.
All right, so we are back and we are talking about Halloween 2018. So before we talk about the ending of this film and kind of where it leaves all the characters, can we talk about the fact that this movie retcons 10 other movies?
I mean, technically it only retcons like...
everything but the first Halloween.
Yeah, but it's not 10 other movies. I think it's technically like 7 other movies. Because the Rob Zombie movies don't count and Halloween 3 doesn't count either, so...
Okay, let me rephrase. It retcons a substantial portion of the canon of this franchise.
Right, yeah. I mean, which there is a ridiculous amount of, frankly, bizarre and insane canon. So
This is not as straightforward as Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th.
I'm okay with it retconning most of the canon because honestly, most of it is just like weird and stupid and like doesn't need to be there anyway. I think it's weird that they went all the way back to Halloween 1 instead of having Halloween 2 in there also, because that just seems like the natural cutoff. Like there was Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. Like even though Halloween 2 is like not nearly as good as the first one, it's still like it takes place like the same night. And
right. Well, and again, so it's weird because this is the first time we've had something like this. I mean, the Star Wars movies came out, and they didn't retcon anything like this.
No. They just ran with it. I mean, they ran with shit that was 40 years old, so.
Right. And that, for me, is kind of this weird spot we're left in because what they want, they kind of want to have their cake and eat it, too. They want to make a Halloween movie, and they want to have Jamie Lee Curtis in it, but they don't want to acknowledge that Jamie Lee Curtis's character died in the previous Halloween sequels.
Right, yeah. Exactly. More than once.
Right. And so in my mind, that's kind of the problem here with this movie is that if you're going to make a movie about Laurie Strode, there is going to be a sense of finality to it because if you want to give the character an actual ending where her character has an end, good or bad, that's essentially the end of the series. It's the end of the franchise.
Yeah.
And the problem with this movie is because they retcon an entire gangbusters, more movies than a lot of franchises ever even get.
Yeah.
You have a movie now that I don't know. I hate the fact that this movie has a coda even in idea at the end. And I hate that David Gordon Green has said, well, there probably will be a sequel and we're leaving this character open for the sequel. It's like, dude, you don't understand. You can't have it both ways. You can't end the Laurie Strode. You can't end the Laurie Strode character and yet say I want to do a sequel.
She's not ended. It's not like she's dead.
Right. I'm not saying dead. I'm saying more of ending her storyline.
Right. But I think
in the universe of Halloween. And that's what bothers me about this movie.
But we've also talked about that, like the Laurie and Michael are so intertwined that like, can you have one without the other? you know? Can you have, I mean, they did make some.
Right. I mean, even the Rob Zombie movies went back to the well with Laurie Strode.
Right. And I mean, you know, the first movie, essentially the second half of the movie is almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original. But, you know, I mean, there's a handful of Halloween movies that don't have Laurie Strode in them. And those are the ones that, like, universally everybody is like, these are the worst ones. Except for maybe Resurrection and H2O. H2O is really bad.
If you're going to give the Laurie Strode character the wrap-up that everyone wanted for her to have, as opposed to her getting murdered unceremoniously in one of the umpteenth sequels that came out, you cannot then say, well, we're going to make a sequel to the movie. That's just that's not how this works. That feels a little bit like having your cake and eating it too. And I get that this movie made a butt fucking ton of money. I get that there's always going to be a need to resurrect well-known, recognizable IPs, but I think Halloween has been put to bed, folks.
Yeah, I mean, the way that this movie was, I mean, the way that this movie ended specifically, made the whole movie to me feel like a cash grab, which is really unfortunate because I thought, based on the people who were involved in this movie, that it was not just a cash grab, that it was, you know, a love letter, you know.
And again, they kept saying we're giving her the story ending that we always wanted to give her.
But they didn't. They didn't end anything. Like,
right. And that's the problem.
So, like, at the end of this movie, we don't have to say spoilers because fucking this whole thing has been spoilers already. At the very end of the movie, essentially, Laurie traps Michael in the basement of the house and then lights it on fire. And it seems like a pretty inescapable situation, but you don't actually see Michael burn to death.
Of course not.
You see him trapped in the basement and you see fire everywhere, but then it cuts to a shot of the basement from a different angle where it's on fire and you don't see Michael. You don't really see how he could have escaped, but you don't see him down there either. And then the house is just kind of burning down, behind them as they sort of like limp out to.
Lest we not forget, Michael, unlike Jason or Freddy, he's not supernatural, but
he is, yeah.
But what I'm saying is like he's supernatural, like he's not overtly supernatural.
The reason for his existence is not supernatural,
and especially if we're ignoring all of the other Halloween films, anyways, then he's not supernatural. In the original film, he's just essentially, like they say, he's the pure evil. He's the distillation of evil, but he's not supernatural. He maybe verges on supernatural, but he's not overtly supernatural. And for me, if you have him come back, you are therefore then saying he is a supernatural character, just like Jason, just like Freddy. Hell, even Leatherface doesn't come back in the way that Michael is expected to.
Yeah. No, and it's like one of those things too, like where the gall of this movie to end the way that it does, and then to have like the little stinger post-credit stuff that it has. I don't know. It's just, it makes it seem like, and be ready for next year when we have another one. And I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Now it's going to be like, let's just reboot all the fucking franchises, like, which is 100% what I do not want. Like, do not want another Friday the 13th reboot. Like, even though the Friday the 13th reboot from 10 years ago or whatever isn't my least favorite Friday movie, I just think we don't need it. Like, stop rehashing the stuff that we already know and love and have. We have a lot of all of this stuff. Like, we don't need to continue the cycle of just remaking the shit that we've constantly been remaking already for multiple decades. Like,
can anyone come up with a new creative creature or monster or slasher?
Yeah, but it's like, those are hard to make money with because people don't know what your new fucking thing is or whatever. But like that's the whole point, is like, you can get away with making subpar films if there's name recognition. Like,
look at Terrifier or The Nun. I mean, well, two different things. Terrifier has a super cool monster, right? But it's super low budget. But the monster is actually kind of cool, right? And then you have The Nun, which is the exact opposite. It's just big budget horror movie, and The Nun is completely just disappointing.
Well, it's like The Nun made all this fucking money, and it's not because The Nun is a good movie. The Nun is the worst movie I've seen in theaters in a long time. But The Nun has the name recognition from The Conjuring 2, which, I mean, is a better movie than The Nun, by a lot. But still, it's like, you just know The Nun from that one very effective and very scary scene from The Conjuring 2. But like, that's it. That's all you have. And I guess that's all you fucking need too, because then you just have this movie that's just a dumpster fire of who gives a shit that they put out that makes, a fucking shit ton of goddamn money in its first fucking weekend. And everybody's laughing all the fucking way to the bank, and Halloween 2018 is gonna make a shit ton of money. And if they don't make a sequel, like, I would be really, really surprised. And that sucks, man, because it's like, if you can come up with something that's good and done well, it will make money. Get Out. Like, Get Out made a shit ton of fucking money, and they even fucking re-released it like a year later, like right before the Academy Awards or whatever. Get Out's a totally different thing. It had this whole cultural phenomenon behind it and all of that stuff. But besides all of that,
yeah, but this movie tried to have that, right? Like, this movie, and that's like maybe the most.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Like, and this is, don't take this the wrong way, anyone listening to this, that is one of the lamest parts of this movie, is trying to shoehorn in like it's like a feminist thing and Laurie is a strong female. No shit. That's been the case since the first movie came out. You don't have to beat us over the head with it because we already knew that. That's always been the case. The Scream Queen moniker is not a derogatory term. And that's the fucking thing that pisses me off about this movie, is that on top of everything else, apparently you can't say anything bad about it.
Right. And
it's just like, then you're deriding a female-led horror movie that's, one of the largest box office openings in October. And it's like, that's not the case. This movie is just, everything about this movie that isn't Jamie Lee Curtis, by the way, and Michael Myers is bad. It's just not good.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things where it's like, we keep talking about this because it keeps happening, and it's a problem that just is going to continue to exist until, forever or whatever. But like, we're rewarding these movies that are poorly made and bad because they make a shit ton of money. And so then they just continue to make them in the same fashion because they're like, well, it worked, so let's not change a thing. And then we can just make like 5 more of them and they'll make a ton of fucking money. And it's a shame, man, because like, I want a higher caliber, especially from these properties like that have existed for so long. And I've already gone through all the fucking pains of terrible, terrible sequels and rehashings, and then a fucking 2 remakes. just like, come on, this franchise has been through so much. Like, where's the person who's like, if we're going to bring it back, we're going to bring it back right. And like, we're not going to just bring it back and just like throw a bunch of bullshit together and like, just be like, cool, it's a fucking Halloween movie. It's serviceable.
And I thought that was Jason Blum.
I thought so too,
Well, and the thing is, I'm not, and again, we've talked about Jason Blum before, and he has had some real stinkers in the Blumhouse, production line, but this was the movie where I thought that we were going to get something really special. And everyone had been talking about it like it was some sort of special experience, and it's just... It's a film that when you watch it, you go, are we done with Halloween now? Because if we're not, then this movie doesn't even matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And that completely undercuts any of the emotional value or strength that they try to, and in some respects do give the film. And that's the worst part about this movie, is that they are, like you said, this movie made $76 million as of this Kulturecast being recorded. It had a production budget of $10 million. If they don't make a sequel, I'll shit myself, because they're idiots if they don't. The problem is if they make a sequel, they undercut everything that this movie did right, which is, 40% of the movie they did right, but it's still the parts of the movie that I think are the most successful. Because it ain't the quality of the direction, and it ain't the quality of the screenwriting for 90% of the film.
There's going to be a lot of people who really like this movie, and I'm not gonna tell them that
there were a lot
wrong.
Of people that liked Alien Covenant too.
Yeah, I mean, but
it's a return to form. That doesn't mean necessarily that it's quality.
Exactly. It's one of those things where, I wanted something better and bigger from the Halloween franchise after all of this time. And it was disheartening for me to see something that was such a return to form, that it literally returned to the same formula that we've had for so many Halloween movies already, of like, it's all about Laurie and Michael and who gives a shit about anybody else. Like, the kills are cool. Jamie Lee Curtis is awesome. We literally can't say that enough. But like, the rest of the movie is just stupid and doesn't need to even be there.
The rest of the movie feels like a missed opportunity to do something interesting with the setting of Haddonfield. And instead you have just 60-70% of the movie is just a retread of everything we've seen up until this point, even the sequels that have been completely glossed over, and then of the 1978 film itself. And when you come back to this film and you see the end of this film, which I think is the most successful part of the film, and I think that's the best shot and the most kind of well constructed, it takes so long to get there that by the time you get there, you completely check out. At least I did. And I'm like, can we just get to the part where one of them dies or both of them die? Because that's the only logical conclusion to this series at this point. And again, they're going to make a sequel. So what does this movie even matter? Michael's going to come back. Laurie's going to come back. Laurie will probably die. The end.
Yeah, or maybe she won't come back, and maybe they'll just like unceremoniously give her the off-screen death that they didn't give her in this movie.
Or maybe they'll just let her go off and do her own thing. And I have no problem with Michael coming back, as long as it has nothing to do with Laurie Strode.
I mean, God, if it has anything to do with Laurie Strode and then they don't both die by the end of it, like, I'm gonna be super pissed, because it's just, I don't know. I thought this was gonna be like the one where we bring it back and then like there's some finality to the end of it. Like, it didn't need to be the last Halloween movie, but like, I wanted it to be the end of the Laurie Strode story.
And it might very well be.
And it felt like that's what they were building to, with the Laurie Strode character being the way that she is, and, all of this stuff, and the way that they even built up like a lot of the movie for the first half of it. There's a lot of good parts in there, even in,
she's like putting her affairs in order and like essentially accepting that this is like what she's waited 40 years for.
Right. And like all of this stuff. And then there's just no payoff to any of it at the end of the movie, which is really sad and frustrating. It just felt like a middle of the road. I know I'm shitting on this movie a lot, and I'm saying that it was bad, but I mean, there are a lot of movies that are much, much worse than this movie. So the reason I'm calling this movie bad is because it's a movie that should have been better than it was.
And they were given so much. They gave themselves a clean slate. And that to me, and that's, you waste it. You waste that clean slate. On top of everything else, you say, hey, this is the only true sequel. Can you imagine how many movie franchises out there we could just be like, that's just the one true sequel? I mean, you and I do that all the time when we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, my favorite horror franchise. You and I always say 1, 3, New Nightmare.
Those are the only movies that even matter. And that's because those are the Nancy movies.
The through line of the character that you care about. And this is the exact same thing here.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things too, where it's let's move on from Laurie, after 40 years now. And you can continue with Michael until he literally is, a zombie, zombie Michael Myers or whatever. And then we can keep going for forever. But just like Laurie Strode's going to die one day, like for real. In real life, she's going to die. So let's end this cycle once and for all, please, so that we can
either kill her or let her go.
Yeah, so that we can move on to some new Halloween movies, or we can move on to different ideas altogether,
maybe David Gordon Green and Danny McBride can come up with their own horror franchise.
Maybe. And
I'm not saying it'll be good, but at least go do something that's not you're piggybacking and just giving fan service to a bunch of hungry horror fans.
Yeah. And I think too, I'm pretty disappointed because of all the horror franchises to kind of reboot, and you're making it kind of a reboot and kind of a sequel. I mean, it's a direct sequel, but they're sort of refreshing, the franchise again. To do it to Halloween and to really clean slate it the way that they did, and then to not pull off something that was just as well executed as it possibly could have been, is just disheartening. And it saddens me.
Because again, very rarely are we given a second chance in life, let alone in movies, to get it right. And they were given a second chance. They were given the blessing by John Carpenter to do it right.
And I mean, I don't know. The blessing from John Carpenter thing seems to me
semantics.
Yeah, it seems like it means less. I don't think John Carpenter really cares, honestly. I think as long as there's money in it for him, he's do whatever the fuck you want, man. I don't really give a shit.
Except don't try to explain Michael's backstory.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was, some personal stuff that I think happened between Rob and John, where, John is not a big fan of Rob. And I think Rob also maybe took some things that John had said to him in the production or whatever, maybe the wrong way or something like that. I don't know. I've heard a couple of different interviews from each of them sort of saying that the others said some things that hurt their feelings and yada, yada, yada. But whatever. It doesn't really matter. They're not working together anytime soon or ever again. So who cares? But yeah, it's, I don't think Carpenter cares. I think, and kudos to him, man. John Carpenter has made some of the most amazing movies and my personal favorite movie of all time, that we have ever seen, and has created, this sort of world of cinematic awesomeness and also cinematic just dumpster fires. But he has made so many goddamn movies, and he fucking wrote them and he directed them and he did the fucking music for them and did all this awesome stuff. So if he wants to just sit back now and just collect paychecks from people who want to reboot his IPs, fucking do it, dude. You fucking earned that shit because you're old as fuck and you could not give two shits what happens.
He seems like a curmudgeon-y old man, though, talking about the Big Trouble in Little China sequel with The Rock, where he's they don't give a shit. Of course they don't give a shit, dude. It's just an IP to them.
Yeah, but
were you born yesterday?
But unless he doesn't own the IP to that or whatever, which he probably doesn't or whatever. But he doesn't care. He's probably getting fucking paid out for that movie.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you're right. You're completely right.
So yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't know.
What would you give Halloween 2018 out of 5?
Oh, I'm gonna give it a 2, maybe a 2.5. I'll give it a 2.5. I mean, on the prowess of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, just alone, just those two in this movie brings it halfway. If any of the rest of the movie would have made sense or mattered at all, this movie would have easily been a 4 or close to a 5. But just none of it that wasn't, Laurie or Michael mattered. So it's a 2.5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2.5 as well. I mean, everything that you said, I echo completely. It's a movie that it was given, it's given the keys to the kingdom, given the keys to the Halloween franchise, and this is it. A movie with faked finality, pseudo-finality. A movie with pseudo-finality. That's what we got, so.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's like the marketing told us we were going to get something, and then we got something else, unfortunately. It wasn't super duper misleading, but at the same time, it's just, ugh.
So we'll take another break and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast.
Don't check your dial, folks. You didn't tune into Transylvania's public access station. No, sir. Tonight is Halloween.
Halloween is Satan's night, the night of the devil.
Reporter Frank Stewart has a special Halloween treat in store for viewers tonight. He'll be leading a group of paranormal experts through the infamous Weber House.
Do you know what happened here in the Weber House?
Some people got killed. Their son went haywire.
Frank Stewart and his team of experts will conduct the first ever live on TV seance.
Evil works in mysterious ways, Frank. It's unpredictable.
Are there any spirits in the house?
It's scary.
That's far out. Something strange going on in this house. Animal mutilation, paranormal disturbances, devil worship. Wait, hold on. This is not staged. Hello? Is this the work of the devil? Folks, we are going where no camera crew has gone before. Father, perform the exorcism. This is not some Halloween prank. The grisly evidence of the supernatural is real. No. We'll be right back.
You're watching the WNUF Halloween special.
Right, on the next Kulturecast, we are going to end Horrortober. No! October is coming to a close, folks. We're going to be talking about the WNUF Halloween special, and we're going to have an interview with my good buddy Chris LaMartina as well. So until then, Eric, people still can't find you on the internet, right?
No, I'm not on the internet. You have to find me in real life. It's like a fun game. Or you can, that makes it sound weird, like I want people to stalk me. So don't do that. But yeah, I don't know. If you randomly recognize me by my voice somewhere in public, say hi.
Yes, because that is a thing that can happen.
Apparently.
Apparently it is. You can find me on the internet at Kulturestash on Twitter. You can also find the Kulturecast on Twitter at Kulturecast and at Kulturecast.com. You'll find links over there to iTunes where you can rate and review the show, which you should totally do, and to Patreon where you can kick a couple dollars our way. Donors get access to some interesting stuff, so go check that out. Big thanks to you, Eric, for the intro-outro music for the Kulturecast, and we'll catch you on the next Kulturecast.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.